All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Let's see here. We're at the top of the hour, so we're about ready to kick it off. I've got a couple. Let's see here. A couple things I got to do first. One is that I have to remind you that you can ask questions on the GoToWebinar control panel. I usually fail to look at the questions as the presentation goes on, but my partner Chelsea is manning the control panel as well. So if she sees your questions and she'll be able to respond to them, or if we want, we could probably wait to the end of the presentation for them. You can ask questions online, or at the very end, we'll open it up for questions. I think we'll have plenty of time. I know we allotted about 30 minutes today, but really, I don't think it'll take that long. I mean, we got a good topic, a lot of good information to cover, but 30 minutes is probably more than enough. My name is David Boland, and I am on the Wasabi product marketing team. And for the next, like I said, 30 minutes or so, we're going to be focusing on the topic of reserved capacity storage, which is interesting and new, but but there is a lot of different aspects that we have to cover on it. We have a good number of folks. Wow, a good number of folks today on the webcast, and I can see that it's a wide variety of you out there. We have some folks that are end users, some of them are channel partners. We've got some technology partners, which are awesome. Hi to Veeam and Milestone. I see you guys. And then I see we also got a couple competitors online too, which is cool. So I hope that I'm able to cover all the aspects of reserve capacity storage and cover any questions you might have. If not, feel free to ask them as we go, or save them to the end, and then we can cover them then. So quick look at today's agenda. I'm hoping that you're all familiar with Wasabi and what makes us different from the other clouds. So I'm not going to go into a deep dive into some corporate overview, but I do want to make sure I cover the points on who we are, why we're different, and why you should care. The focus, of course, is reserve capacity. What is it? What are the good use cases for it? And why would somebody consider reserve capacity storage instead of pay-as-you-go storage pricing plans? We'll look at a couple, actually 4 customer examples of how people can use reserve capacity storage out there instead of the typical pay-as-you-go. And then, like I said, at the very end, I'll cover a couple of the more frequently asked questions, and then open it up to any questions that I may have missed. Real quick, if you're not familiar with Wasabi, you get all kinds of information online about who we are and why we are, but touching on the important parts was that we're started in 2015 by Carbonite's founding team of David Friend and Jeff Flowers. They spent the first 2 years designing a hardware architecture and a file system, and in March of 2017, the service came public. And since then, we've grown to about 15,000 customers and hundreds of petabytes of storage under management. We have a laser-like focus on cloud object storage, and that's what we know, and that's what we do best. That's what our team focuses on. And that puts us in direct competition with AWS S3, Microsoft Azure Blob, Google Cloud, IBM Object Storage, tough competitors there. Cloud storage is, also a pretty good substitute for on-prem object storage. So we bump heads against NetApp's StorageGrid or EMC's ECS, Cloudian or Caringo. And I'm not a cloud bigot. I believe in hybrid storage world. So I believe that you should be able to store data on-prem and in the cloud, and the two of them should work together. So I enjoy working with a lot of our on-prem storage partners like Cloudian, like Caringo, like NetApp, and like EMC. So with a list of competitors that we have, like Amazon or AWS, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and IBM, many people would think it would have to be crazy to want to go into this market. Who wakes up in the morning and says, "Hey, I want to compete against Amazon, Microsoft, and Google," right? But that's what Jeff and Dave did, and they decided that they would set out to make Wasabi a different type of cloud, different from what you can find, on the Googles and the AWS world. They they set out to design a storage that's a little bit different and a company that's a lot different from most. So first and foremost, they wanted to make sure that Wasabi Cloud Storage was easy to understand, wasn't difficult to use. Right? AWS can be complex. There's a bunch of different tiering models. There's standard S3, there's infrequent access, infrequent access one zone, intelligent tiering between those guys, plus there's 2 tiers of archive. So understanding the tiers, understanding the differences between them is a hassle, and you shouldn't really have to go to AWS Cloud School for 3 months to get a certificate that says now you figured out object storage. So we want to make it easy. Plus, Azure is just as difficult. They pretty much copied the S3 multi-tier architecture, but then they upped the ante by throwing a half a dozen or a dozen different redundancy tiers on top of it. Makes it difficult to use, difficult to understand it. IBM and Google pretty much have the same cookie cutter architectures, just pretty much the same version of vanilla, right? But Wasabi is easy to understand and easy to use. We have 1 tier, and the pricing model is really straightforward. We'll cover that in a bit. We're different because not only do we want to work directly with the end users, but we also want to work with channel partners. There are hundreds, thousands of incredibly smart people out there that work for MSPs, VARs, and systems integrators. These guys know networking, they know applications, they know storage like the back of their hands. Folks at Data Endure, Sirius, Comport, Continental Resources, these guys are very smart, storage savvy guys. They've been working with NetApp, EMC, HP, Hitachi Vantara for years, right? And we want them to work with us because they bring an extra added value to the end users who they work with. Another difference is our Technology Alliance Partner Program. Our Technology Alliance Program is really different than anything else out there. We want to work closely with partners, hundreds of partners actually, to jointly develop and validate and market a storage solution. As I mentioned earlier, we have a singular focus on cloud object storage. We're not going to get into developing backup software. We're not working on shared file services for NFS or SMB. We're not doing archive, and we're not building compute hardware. We just want to work with the best in breed folks that do, and we don't want to compete with them. So, Wasabi is different because we're easy to use, easy to understand, less expensive. We want to work with the channel partners, and we have a technology alliance program like none other. So when Dave and Jeff set out to build Wasabi, they wanted to address the cloud storage problems that they saw, which was complexity and difficulty of use. Right? There's storage costs were impossible to predict. Really difficult to predict what your costs are going to be each time you get charged for an API request. Every time you get put something in the cloud, or get something in the cloud, or list what you have in the cloud, or you want to retrieve something, you retrieve requests, you get charged for it, right? So it makes it very difficult to predict what costs are. People want to know what their costs are going to be, right? Lock-in could be a real problem, because if you've got data in the cloud that you can't afford the egress because you recharged egress charges, then it's kind of locked in there, and that could become a problem. So difficult to understand, difficult to predict the costs. Lock-in was an issue. And then another problem that we quickly recognized was that there's a whole large segment of the market that doesn't want to or can't pay monthly on a credit card. And they'd rather pay up front with an invoice or a purchase order, right? And there hasn't been an option for them. It's either been pay as you go, pay as you use, or find something on-prem. So we're going to get into, well, I don't want to get into a storage lesson, but let's talk a little bit about the history of storage, right? I think we can all agree that AWS is the granddaddy of all cloud object storage. Granddaddy, right? They definitely the most successful. They've been around since 2006, and it's always been a pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-use model, copied by Azure, IBM, Google, and everybody else, right? Which is great in cases where you really may not know how much capacity you're going to need, or you can't predict what your future requirements are, or maybe you can't get a purchase order through the accountant team, without jumping through hoops, but maybe you can expense it on a credit card. Little shadow IT here and there doesn't really hurt anybody very much. Or you know what? Or maybe you just need a little bit more. Maybe you need a little bit more storage. Maybe you got to get it fixed. You got to get a little more storage on. So maybe it's just easy to put it on a credit card. Either way, this pay-as-you-go model has been pretty popular over the years, especially as CapEx and OpEx accounting rules have changed. Even the on-prem guys, even NetApp, EMC, and the folks like that are trying to get into the pay-as-you-go game because the accounting rules have kind of changed, right? You used to be able to lease equipment and that could be an OpEx cost, but now it's a CapEx cost. And it can't be written down like it could be in the past. So we see hardware vendors like NetApp, EMC, HPE, or Hitachi Vantara come up with sometimes convoluted schemes, to put hardware on your prem, but charge you as in a consumption model that kind of copies, pay as you go in the cloud. We could do a whole webinar on uncovering the hidden gotchas and problems with on-prem consumption payment schemes. But we can do that some other time. That's not today's topic. Today's topic is, of course, reserved capacity storage. So let's dive into reserved capacity storage. It is an alternative to pay-as-you-go. Right? It provides a convenient purchasing alternative to monthly credit card charges. RCS, we call it RCS, reserved capacity storage, is a simple concept to understand. Right? You simply commit to how much storage capacity you want over a period of time, and you purchase that cloud storage with an upfront PO and an invoice. 1, 3, 5 year increments, right? And the capacities you choose on your own, it could be anywhere from 50 terabits to 10 petabytes. It doesn't matter to us. You can 50 terabits to 10 petabytes and anything in between. What you need, you work with your sales team to provide a quote for you, and then we'll help you out. So RCS, right? So first, let's talk about who might want RCS, right? There's all kinds of folks out there, like I said, who haven't been able to use a credit card, who don't want to use a credit card up front. They tend to be more educational institutions, schools, middle schools, high schools, are examples, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and a very large amount of enterprises out there would love to have the opportunity to pay up front and not put it on a credit card. Helps on accounting. And so it's a great option for them as well, right? RCS has, the benefits of not being billed on a monthly basis, no credit cards are needed, but it also has the ability, you also have the ability to have a deeper discount for the capacity and for longer term. So overall, your price is going to be lower if you contract up front for a 1 or 3 or 5 year and some capacity. Right? In the case of Wasabi, that comes with a 30-day retention policy instead of our typical 90-day retention policy, and it all comes with support, with the premium support. So premium support is required. So, what are some of the important things you need to know up front about reserved capacity storage? Right. First off, you want to be able to estimate the capacity you need up front. Like I said, pay-as-you-go is fantastic if you don't know what the capacity requirements are. In the case where elasticity and the ability to pay and scale up and scale down, it might be important on a pay-as-you-go basis. But if you know the amount you need for the period of time you need it, RCS makes a fantastic story. And we'll talk in a minute or two about some of the use cases that are examples of this. Number two, if you go over your standard contract, say you want, 100 terabytes, 50 terabytes, but you end up going 101 or 102 terabytes, not a big deal. You're going to be charged at the standard $5.99 per terabyte per month rate. You're not going to be penalized, and you're not going to be upcharged for it. So it's not a big deal if you do go over. If you find yourself going over a lot, maybe 20%, 50%, whatever it is, add to your contract at any time. We use the term coterminous, which means that we can make that additional storage end at the same as your original, on the same date your original contract did. So say 6 months into your capacity usage, you find yourself needing another 20 terabytes, 50 terabytes, whatever the number is. but you say, yeah, wait a minute, I don't want to pay for another 12 months for this extra additional capacity. We can make it coterminous. You can work with your sales team and work with our ops teams, and we'll add that capacity to your contract. It terminates at the exact same time original contract did. So now there are two ways to purchase Wasabi Cloud Storage. The traditional pay-as-you-go monthly purchasing plan that we've all come to know and love, right? And now the new reserve capacity model that opens up the cloud to a whole new set of customers and offers not only lower costs, but costs, that have a capacity and time associated with them. So, in the next few slides, we'll take a closer look at some of the reserved capacity use cases. All right, so there's folks at Clark Anderson Partners. They're an architectural and engineering design firm. Awesome people. But you can imagine that as an architectural and design firm, you have a lot of data you want to store, right? And it consumes up a lot of space. These guys were looking to free up space on their on-prem storage. So they looked around and they found, hey, we have an opportunity to move some of the older, colder data from on-prem to the cloud and use reserve capacity storage as archive and a second backup copy. And in the case of archive, it's pretty straightforward to identify your capacity requirements. They got great tools out there from folks like Comprise, Igneous, Defendex, and others who can scan a multi-vendor storage environment. It identifies the old and the colder data, or maybe some orphan storage out there. And once it identifies that capacity, you know how much capacity you have, you move that capacity from your on-prem, probably a little bit more expensive storage, into the Wasabi Cloud, right? So you free up your on-prem storage for more data that might be it might be hotter data or active data, and you put your colder, more archivable data up into the Wasabi Cloud. The folks at Clark Anderson Partners figured it out, and it makes life a lot easier from an on-prem storage perspective. Right? We've got a college in California who's a customer, and what they had, well, actually, what they heard a horror story from one of their sister colleges out there as well that was hit with a ransomware attack, and wanting to avoid the example that the sister college set for them, they decided to look for options. The one that fit them the best was a solution that utilizes Veeam for backup. And really what they're doing is they're following the 3-2-1 backup rule, right? So you have three copies of your data, two of them are in different media, and one is on a different site completely. This one that's a different site completely, of course, is the Wasabi capacity tier or Wasabi Cloud. So, but in this case, these guys, they knew exactly how much data that they wanted, how much data they had. They said, well, we got 40 terabytes dedicated for backup now. We grow, 20% year over year. So why don't we go with a 50 terabyte solution for 1 year and see where that takes us? So in this case, the backup copy is stored in Wasabi. It's easy for them to size, and it has a little bit more growth in there for a little more capacity for growth. You still have your storage solution on-prem that's freed up, but in the cloud, you now have your untouchable, immutable copy actually of your backup data. I like this one. I like this one a lot because it's different. Right? There's a school district in Vernon Hills, Illinois, School District 128. It's ranked as the #1 safest school district in their state, and it's one of the safest school districts in the whole country. They have a fantastic security program. Right? They've been a long-time customer of video surveillance from Milestone. They use the Milestone XProtect system. So with this school district, they have over 3,000 students, and they monitor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can understand it's easy to consume on-prem storage if you've got cameras running all the time and you're recording everything, right? So, but the wonderful thing about Milestone and video surveillance is if you know how many cameras you have or how many hours they operate, the frame rate and resolution, you know exactly how much storage you need. It's a constant, right? So in this case, because they're recording X amount of video every day and deleting X amount of video every day, it's very predictable. So why not move that archive video from on-prem into the cloud. And this is what these guys do, right? They retain 10 days of recent video on-prem, and then they move it to Wasabi Cloud for 30 days. And if nobody calls asking for a video copies of any incident on a bus or in a hallway or in a schoolyard, the data is deleted and it's reused by another, another day of video copying. Right. Another one, which is one of my favorite ones, by the way, is migrating cloud lock data from another cloud to Wasabi. In this case, you know exactly how much data you have in S3 or Blob, right? You get billed for it every month, so you know exactly down to the terabyte how much data you have. And so if there's a way for you to move that data from S3 or one zone or from Blob, cool or hot, it doesn't matter, to Wasabi, and use reserve capacity storage, you're going to save a lot of money. So, so in this case, right, you're looking at taking data that you're probably paying for in AWS or Azure that you want to save for a period of time, but you don't want to delete it, but it's still expensive. So if you know the storage, you can figure out what the costs are to move it, because I mean, it's in AWS, it's in Azure, you're going to get hit with egress charges. You're going to get hit with egress charges if you try to get it out over the internet, at 9 cents a gigabyte, or if you have a direct connect, maybe it's 2 cents a gigabyte. But there are a lot of companies out there like Assembly who focus on moving cloud data. So something like Assembly can attach to your buckets in AWS, build a new bucket for you in Wasabi, and move it from one bucket to another. Still going to cost you, to move it from one cloud to another, but it's a lot less expensive than doing it yourself over the internet or through a direct connect. That's what the Assembly focuses on. That's what they do best. So in the case of cloud lock data, you want to move out of AWS to Wasabi, perfect solution for RCS. You know how much capacity you require, you know how long it's going to take you to recover your costs. Because it may take a few weeks, maybe even a few months to hit that break-even point to where you actually start saving money instead of spending it on AWS or Azure. But after that 6 week or that 8th month or whatever that magic return on investment date is, your CFO is going to be much happier when you show them you're starting to save hundreds or thousands of dollars by moving it from one expensive cloud to Wasabi. It's a no-brainer, really, especially if you already know how much capacity you have. So let's take a real quick look at some of the more frequently asked questions. I kind of touched on these earlier, but they're simple, right? The three I see the most often, or hear the most often, are do I have to pay for premium support? The answer is yes. It's going to be 7% of your overall price, right? But premium support is part of the deal for reserve capacity storage. What happens if I need more capacity? More capacity is completely fine. If you go over your contract, right, you're gonna, if it's 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes, you're gonna get, a bill for, $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever it is. It's not that big of a deal. You're not gonna be, it's not gonna be extorted. You're not gonna have to pay a penalty. It's totally fine. But if it's a larger number, you may want to look at extending your contract, right, adding more capacity to your existing contract, and making that new capacity coterminous so that it ends with the original one. Work with your sales rep, they can make it happen. It's easy to do, right? Big question is, I'm already using Wasabi pay-as-you-go plan, and can I convert it to RCS? The answer is yes, absolutely. So if you're already using Wasabi in the first place, and you're paying on a monthly basis, and you already know, hey, I've got 50, I've got 100, 150 terabytes, whatever it is. Instead of paying it on a monthly basis, you want to put it under an RCS contract. Yep, work with the sales rep. It's totally easy to do, right? Once you ingress that data and you know what it is and you know how much capacity it is, it makes sense to move it to a RCS model instead of a pay-as-you-go model, right? And so we have a bunch of other frequently asked questions you can find online. Really, if you go to wasabi.com and then do a little quick search button and type in pricing FAQs, it'll pop up. So that's what that's what our resources are there for. If you want some more information, if you need to have some more detail on pricing FAQs, or you want to talk to one of our storage specialist folks, or you're already have a relationship with one of our sales folks and you want to add more information, or you want to move from pay-as-you-go to RCS, or you want to get a quote to figure out how much it would cost you to store X amount of data for X amount of time, contact our sales guys online. Or if you're just curious how to set up a Veeam, or how to set up a Milestone, or how to set up anything, one of our partners, with the training videos, they're available there. Or knowledge base articles are up there too, if you want to find out how Wasabi works with other backup vendors or other archive solutions, or compute, like folks from Packet. You find it in our knowledge base. And then of course, fantastic webinars like this one are recorded and stored up there for future use if you have any need to go in there and just want to learn more about Wasabi and our use cases. With that, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to reach out to Chelsea now to see if she has any questions that she wants to share. If not, we'll open it up for everybody. Thanks, everyone. Chelsea, turn it over to you.
Hi, David. You actually covered the two hottest questions on here, and our other two questions are specific to the attendees, so I'll follow up with them individually.
Awesome.
But the most important one was, can existing pay-as-you-go customers convert to RCS, which we know they can, and we also have a great new video on our website that directs you on how to do that on wasabi.com/RCS.
Excellent. Excellent. And then, if you have any questions, you feel free. My email is at the front of the presentation. It's dboland@wasabi.com. Send me any questions. If you or hit the sales reps online. If you know who your sales rep is, send them a note. If you don't, hit our chat bot, and you can ask all kinds of questions of the chat bot. We'll get back to you right away. I appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you. Stay safe. And look forward to talking at you in the next webinar. Thank you.